I think if you were advising the Ayatollah right now, you would say, Ayatollah, our proxies are in danger. They're crumbling. We have to beat a hasty retreat. And all of a sudden, from confronting Israel on 7 or 8 fronts, Iran is defending 7 fronts. And they've added Syria, the problems of Syria. So where they were attempting to use aggression in these proxies to pursue their hegemony in the region. Now, I think they are defending that same hegemony to prevent the fall of their fragile empire. And let's be clear, if they lose those proxies and they lose that hegemony, the rationale that they have used with their own people begins to crumble. And their own people who hate the oppression of the Ayatollah will be emboldened to rise up against them. The fragility of the Ayatollah and his cronies will be revealed as each of its proxies crumbles. And you see the very tenuous hold on power that the evil, and I don't usually use words like that, but he is an evil man, Bashar al-Assad, and a disgusting man, may fall. Now, I certainly don't support an Islamic insurgency in Syria either, and there are complicated issues there, as I said. But I do see that Iran is fighting now on multiple fronts for its survival. I think that the issues in Syria and the rise of the Islamic insurgency in Syria really reflects a broader regional and perhaps global issue, which is the incredible weakening of the hegemony of Iran in the region. Iran had built a Shia crescent, if you will, across the region, stretching from the Bab el-Mandeb, where the Houthis control, to the Straits of Hormuz and everything in between, including their proxy state in Syria. And because Iran was weakened, has been weakened dramatically through the weakening of its proxies like Hamas, now Hezbollah, its own weakening of its air defense system, its crumbling economy, its own internal corruption, and you see its inability to protect and support its proxies. So even insurgents, bad ones, like this Islamic insurgency, Islamic State insurgency, type insurgency in Syria, sees that opportunity and sees it as an opportunity to strike because the Assad regime is a house of cards. And without the support of Iran and perhaps Russia, that regime, and Turkey, that regime is tenuous at best. It's a complicated issue because we certainly think that Assad is a monster and, in my opinion, must go. But instability in Syria will obviously cause incredible consternation across the region. So it's one of those peculiar Middle East issues where there is no good outcome, because I don't think an Assad regime is helpful because it's been an Iranian proxy, nor would be an Islamic caliphate. I think that what you're seeing is very similar to the way we at United Against Nuclear Iran have described Iran. Iran, with this massive Shia crescent, with its oil smuggling, its proxies, has tried to project power far afield while truly oppressing, repressing its own population, while only feathering the nest of its IRGC through corruption and illicit money laundering and the like. I think that Iran was always a paper tiger, in the sense that they projected power, but we had always acted in a manner to suggest that Iran could harm us or harm others in the region. Certainly they can. We can't say that, there was the largest ballistic missile attack in history was launched by Iran against Israel, and we can't pretend that's nothing. And somehow the West has brushed that off. But the reality is that militarily, and because of these projections of power, these two-bit countries that use corruption and oppression against their own people, and corruption to feather the nest of their dictatorships or oligarchies, are vulnerable to being called out for being that paper tiger. So as Iran has been overstretched and revealed by Israel, and I wish much more the United States and the West, I think Western leaders are demonstrating a remarkable cowardice when it comes to, in my opinion, supporting the real problem in the region and confronting Iran. And I think Western leaders, even though they're gradually edging up into supporting Ukraine in a more aggressive manner, have also shown cowardice. This dribbling out of weaponry and support of the Ukrainians is quite sinister in character. We want to support, but not support too much. If you are facing an existential challenge, you don't want to have the mama bear, papa bear, baby bear analysis of how much support you have. And it's almost as if the European leaders and the US want to have their cake and eat it too by just supporting Ukraine enough. I think we should make clear that Russia is a paper tiger as well. We have a little bit different calculus because Russia is a nuclear state and they've done some nuclear saber rattling. It's a reminder that we must confront Iran before it becomes nuclear. But once and for all, I think that the feckless leadership, both in the European Union with respect to the UK, the United States, is being a little bit revealed, and we should be a little ashamed because these powers that are attempting to rise and causing such mischief and heartache in the region are being revealed. Imagine a region without the Ayatollah and Iran, and the Iranian people thriving and having unity across Israel and the Arab states. Imagine a region where Turkey wasn't supporting Islamic insurgencies, and imagine a truly democratic Russia with, more liberal values. That region, the world would be thriving, and those people that live in those countries would be thriving. And I think the peace in the Middle East would break out to a degree unprecedented in modern history if the Ayatollah met his maker and there was no third Ayatollah.
The Kremlin's extremely worried about what's happening in Syria. We've had unconfirmed reports in the last 24 hours that the Russians have been moving some of their Mediterranean fleet out of their base, their naval base at Tartus, which would be in danger of being effectively enveloped by the attack that's been brought in by this group called Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS as we refer to them as, who were originally al-Qaeda linked. They denounced their association with al-Qaeda. They seem to be being backed by Turkey and have got a number of other groups working with them. And they've been advancing down south of Idlib on the the western side of Syria, as they tried to move down towards Damascus via the city of Homs, and have been advancing rapidly. And it's something that nobody saw. And the response by Assad's forces, backed by the Russians and the Iranians, has been woeful to date. Now, that's not going to say that they're going to have success and Assad's going to fall. Assad's got quite strong forces. The Russians are in there primarily providing air support. They've provided air cover in the past, but they haven't had to do anything since there was a ceasefire signed in 2020, really. And therefore, some of their assets will have been stripped out to go and support Ukraine. And it would be difficult for Putin to surge assets in to back up Assad, which could be why we're seeing movement of naval forces out. What's interesting is if I look at how long I've been involved in international geopolitics, whether being in the military or analysing it and commentating on it and all the rest of it, I've been at it for over 40 years. And I have never seen a path to World War III before without, because there's been big chunks missing. I can now see several clear paths to a global conflict. And the expansion that we're seeing in the Middle East, it was bad enough when it was Israel with Gaza, and then Israel with Gaza and southern Lebanon. Then we had Israel with Gaza with southern Lebanon with Yemen. Then we had Israel with Gaza with southern Lebanon, Yemen, and Iran directly involved. And now we've got Syria involved. It's growing. And within all of that, the common denominator is who won whenever Gaza first happened. It was Putin. Putin came off out of the front page headlines, and Israel was front and center. And Putin's been off the front page headlines since that October the 7th attack. But we've got this axis of evil that's developing, and there's a relationship between Putin and Iran and China and North Korea. And of course, we've got the tensions in the South China Seas as well. What is happening in the Middle East as that grows, what is happening in Europe as the frontline stalemate, but the war is not going to be won on what happens in the front line. It's going to be one on what happens at the operational level or the strategic level. And what I oft quote is, the Americans were proud at the end of the Vietnam War that they didn't lose a single tactical battle. That tells you something. So whenever we analyze what's going on in the front line in Ukraine and we say the Russians are winning because they're advancing, that's a tactical piece. This is not going to end at that. And this coming together of Russia, Iran, China, North Korea is very worrying indeed. Because that is the element that could bring all of the three areas of tension that we've got growing and growing quite fast together in a way that it will impact us globally. Will that turn into a nuclear third world war? No, I think it could be a conventional fighting third world war, just with all of the links out of there, and that could go on for a number of years. The economic shock that it would cause us would be phenomenal. We are still reeling from the economic shock of Russia's reinvasion of Ukraine almost 3 years ago. That would seem like a very minor event if all of these conflicts started to join up.